Welcome, welcome viewer wherever you are. It's yet another moment, another Sunday that you are meeting at the Cardinal Talk Show. This show that brings you so much about political happenings in the country. This week it was momentous. It was a week that very many county assemblies passed the BBI bill. They call it the 2020 Constitutional Amendment Bill, probably known as the BBI. It was so dramatic. The Super Tuesday was so dramatic. By the end of the day, it was like, nearly 40 of them had passed the the bill. And now the bill is now transiting to the next level. It is this level and the path of BBI that we want to ventilate on today. With me to do this is an advocate who will let us know his name, and then he will take us through the pieces. We want to understand, because only saying BBI and referendum is not enough. We've got to understand exactly what is in store for us, what awaits us as a people, and then ultimately what will be the results. Yes, sir. Welcome to the show.
I'm happy to be here.
Good.
I'm doing great.
Great. Your name, sir?
My name is Paul Owl, a practicing advocate.
Thank you very much. Yes, Wakili, this week defined so much overwhelming support for BBI from the county assemblies. Yes, leaving alone what is politics out of it, what is the path, and what did this actually present to the people of Kenya through the MCAs?
Maybe the starting point should be on where it all began and where we are at the moment. First of all, BBI was a concept of addressing long-term issues that have either stagnated or that needed a relook at. It resulted from the handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga. They realized that they had a moment to address certain issues that needed a relook. Some of these issues, they realized that you can't address them without changing several pieces of legislation. Some of this legislation to be changed, there was a need to also change certain articles of the Constitution. Now, if you look at the Building Bridges original document between the President and the Prime Minister, they decided that the route they were going to take was to change the Constitution through the popular initiative. The Constitution can be changed through two main ways. There is the parliamentary initiative and the popular initiative. The issue with the parliamentary initiative is that there are certain things that you cannot change through parliament because they need referendum. If you look at the Constitution, for example, the Constitution says that anything that touches on devolution must be taken through the people, and the people must decide. So I think they decided that there is no need of taking two approaches, where one you will stagnate at a certain point. Now they also realized that they needed to change so many things. It's not really like it's one article or it's two articles. The BBI, or the Constitutional Amendment Bill for 2020, addresses so many issues, some dealing with integrity, some dealing with commissions, some dealing with things like patriotism, good citizenship, some dealing with the executive arm, some trying to address the 1/3 gender rule. So they realized that let them come up with a bill, because even the time frame to discuss each and every article, in as much as that's the work of the parliamentary bodies, was going to be a long time. So they decided that yes, let's agree, because they took this through public participation, they took this through several hearings, some were negotiating consensus, then what they agreed on finally, Nick, you'll realize that there's a difference between what we can agree with you and how now you reduce it into a policy that is enforceable. For you to reduce it into a policy that is enforceable, then it must fit within the parameters of the law. Like they realize that for you to address certain things, it needs more than goodwill. Like maybe you want to support devolution where you say that fine, in as much as Nick will be a good president, but let's confine him that this percentage must go to support devolution. So they agreed, they came up with a bill. First of all, the process allows that you can collect signatures, the popular initiative. It needs like 1 million signatures. This is in the Constitution. It has to be taken through IEBC for verification. The good thing with the Constitution, the current Constitution, is that it also gives you timelines through which, so that you don't have somebody this time trying to address certain issues. And the Constitution also says that how long should it take for IEBC to verify? Then once the signatures have been verified, of course there have been issues, and I've seen even somebody has filed in court challenging the verification. Yes, there is no law that actually says that IEBC should keep sample signatures. You see, like in the bank, there's your sample signature. But I also tend to think that it would be a very tedious process. But yes, what I think to avoid challenge and to also give it legitimacy, they collected more than 1 million signatures, so that you have a reciprocity, or you have somewhere where if somebody is saying that it's only 1 million, you give him 3 million, so that even if some issues come and then it doesn't stop, it still satisfies. So once after the collection and verification of signatures, the law mandates IEBC now to send the bill to all the 47 county assemblies. That procedure is within the law. That once you've confirmed, and it's not really the first time this has happened. You remember we even had the Punguza Mzigo, where after the verification of the signatures, it was taken to all the 47 county assembly. Now the other good thing is that now the law also says that there is a timeline through which the county assemblies at the bill, debate it, take it through public participation, and give a resolution. This resolution they give to the Speaker of the Senate. Like if you're coming from Wajir, if it's been tabled, you are given that within this timeline, you have to sit, take it through public participation, debate it. Now you debate it given the format through which your standing orders agree, but more or less it's like you've seen there are some standing orders that says that each and every individual must, a representative in the county assembly must, it must be confirmed and recorded. There are certain county assemblies where it can be voted through acclamation and all that. But yes, after the expiry of the timeline, each of the 47 counties have to write to a speaker. The speakers of the county assemblies have to write to the Speaker of the Senate, telling him that they debated it and which resolution did they pass. Was it a yes resolution or was it a no resolution? Once it reaches the Speaker of the Senate is supposed to inform members. The relevant law says that now the next process, it cannot take more than 45 days in the Senate.
In the Senate?
Yes. It's also good to also let viewers know that the popular initiative goes through the Senate, because most of the issues it also touches on also are through the Senate. The parliamentary initiative goes to the National Assembly. So this one will be debated in the Senate. Once it's debated in the Senate, now this is the truth, is that once Senate debates it, there is nowhere where they can actually reject it. they have to take it to the people.
Before you venture further, when the bill now comes to the Senate,
yes,
I don't know, is it the Senate alone or also the National Assembly?
It comes to the Senate.
Not the National Assembly.
Like I started by saying, that there are two ways of amending the Constitution. There is the parliamentary initiative. The parliamentary initiative goes in the National Assembly. The popular initiative goes to the Senate. Once it goes to the Senate, once the Senate are done with it, then IBC now have to organize a referendum.
So now, where we are right now as a people is that now the county assemblies, virtually all of them, like
yes.
now 41, 42, it's like we are remaining about 5 or so
yes.
that are yet to make their decisions felt. Now, where we are right now, Speaker Kenneth Lusaka has got to receive all this communication from all the 47 counties.
Right.
Then now it's his responsibility now to initiate a debate on this.
Yes, once he receives, of course now it's good to also note that there is a timeline through which the county assemblies, once the whole process starts, there is a timeline that is already running, and you cannot go outside that timeline. For example, before he gets the remaining counties debating it and agreeing. But yes, these counties, in as much as they are yet to make a resolution, there is a timeline beyond. So once maybe most assemblies agreed to do it on the same day. That's why we had Super Tuesday.
Yeah.
But yes, there is a timeline through which these other counties that are yet to debate it still have some time. Once that time lapses, is when now the Speaker has to communicate to the Senate saying that yes, this came before us, we've received a resolution, or all the 47 counties have notified me of how they voted. Now it's time that I table it to the Senate for debate, for looking at it, if they want to take it through public participation, if they have certain suggestions. There's still a number of things that they can also do.
To change the document.
Yes. Yes. You know, the truth is that whatever we have is a bill. It is not an act. An act is when now once they've agreed to it that this is the final, this is what the president has signed, this is the final resolution. Yes, recommendations can still be made, because if you look at the Constitution, it actually says Parliament, whether National Assembly or the Senate, nobody can direct them on what they can do and what they cannot do. They can still relook, because you see, Nick, also, there'll be no need of taking it or listening to public views when you cannot change anything. It will be a waste of time. They can relook at it, they can look at views, and they'll reach a consensus. Yes, and all this must be done within the 45 days. Now they don't have a lot of time, meaning if anybody, like you, even as of now, as a public citizen, as a private citizen, you can also, or as a citizen of Kenya, you can still write a memorandum to the Senate. You tell them that they need to relook at this. If you think this is necessary, they'll look at it, they'll give their views, they'll debate it, they'll be answered of how they've looked at it, even within the county assemblies. Yes.
Well, now, going forward, after the Senate, where does it now get to? Because it's a process. Is IBC coming in again at this point, or it goes to the president for assent, or what happens there?
Yes. Once the Senate debates it and passes a resolution, they'll submit it to IBC for IBC to conduct a referendum within 2 months.
So the president doesn't have to assent to this?
Yes, in as much as there are different types of bills, but yes, you realize that the track, you know, this is a bill that is coming as part of the process. The president, I think, will only sign it once it becomes law, the citizens and all that, because this is still a process. Like, it's coming, it has gone through the county assemblies, because you realize that everything that goes through the county assemblies, also the governor has to sign to be law. But this one is a different type of a bill, because even what was at the county assembly was also still just a bill, but it is a bill that is part of a process. It's not final. The president signs it once it gets to be a final.
At the final stage.
At the final stage.
Yes, I had some parliamentarians talking about the second reading, and they are waiting it to get to Parliament for the third reading. And after the third reading, it's supposed to be adopted the way it is, and then it goes to the president. I don't know whether the president now signs it into law and then gives it to the IBC, or it's the other way around. I think these are now the nitty-gritties that we need to understand.
No. You realize, like, maybe if I take us back, that it is still not law and it still does not get to the president. Like, you remember that whether it's BBI or the Punguza Mzigo, it goes to the IBC when it's still proposals. It's IBC which submitted it to the county assemblies. Now the county assemblies submitted it to the Senate. Once the Senate are done with it, they take it back to IBC, because it's only IBC that can conduct any referendum.
Okay, now they say there are timelines for this. Do you foresee a situation where we have referendum before June?
Yes, actually, you look at that whole timeline. The whole timeline is supposed to ensure that we have referendum, unless there is a court process that stops the conduct of the referendum. Because I can tell you, if somebody manages to get a court decision, a court order, saying that even the county assemblies cannot submit it to the Senate, then it stops there. Or that the Senate cannot submit it to IBC, or that IBC cannot conduct elections, then that's the only way it can stop it. Otherwise, without any hiccups, the timelines should be able to run smoothly until the referendum date.
So therefore, Kenyans should brace for this plebiscite anytime before it gets to June, because sometimes it looks like the BBI thing is pegged so much towards next year's general election that it must come within some time for boundaries delimitation, ABCD, all that. Can't it be seen like it's an independent process that is running its own course, devoid of the elections next year?
Nick, if you look at the Constitution, there are certain articles that give timelines on when certain things can be done. For example, new boundaries must be there at least 1 year before the general election. Like, you look at BBI or the Constitutional Amendment Bill, it's going to ensure that we have new delimitation and new boundaries. These ones have to be done, because you see, there are even processes that will result from this. For example, if you are a registered voter in Starehe and this bill goes through and it says that now Starehe has to be divided into 2 constituencies, as a voter in Starehe, you are supposed to be given an opportunity to go and decide whether you want to vote in the old Starehe one. So you see, without, like, for example, the process of voter registration can only begin once they are the new boundaries. Meaning, without it going through, then we still remain with the 290 constituencies. That's why there must be certain timelines to ensure that it goes through, to ensure that there is no conflict with certain provisions in the Constitution, because it must be known, so that wananchi also have sufficient time to make a decision. Because, for example, you are a Kenyan citizen, and if you qualify to run for an elective position, you need to know what are your chances, and you need to know, so that now you know where do you stake your claim, where do you put your, and yes, that's why it must be done within at least a year before the next general election.
Now, looking at all that, do you think it's practically possible for Kenyans to go into next year's elections in August with all these activities expected in between? We've got voter registration, we've got delimitations, we've got the elections coming. I look at time and wonder if it's even possible legally, would it even get there?
Yes, legally, Nick, first of all, whatever is happening is not something illegal, because there is need to also let viewers know that certain things are within the Constitution. For example, even the issue of boundaries. The Constitution says that between 8 and 12 years, the boundaries are supposed to be reviewed. Meaning, if you look at that, the Constitution was passed in 2010, then any time from 2018 to 2022, it's ripe for the review of boundaries. Second, the issue of whether you can bring an amendment to the Constitution, there's already a procedure through which, and it doesn't say that even today, even next year, if somebody feels that they need to bring another amendment that has not been captured, they can actually just begin another process and all that. So one, there is need to know that whatever is happening is not illegal. And two, if it is in the Constitution, then it's upon the bodies mandated to look for resources to ensure that they follow the procedure it's supposed to be done. And yes, voter registration, you realize it's not a very long process. I think what just normally happens is that Kenyans are not known, like if you say that this should even be done within 7 days, most people will not get there. Most people will wait for the last minute to change their vote to yes. So all these things can actually be done before 2022.
Well, there's this concept that this exercise is not supposed to be one question referendum, because not very many Kenyans have gone through the BBI report and understood it bit by bit. Even then, there are sticky areas within the Constitution. So they feel if it's lumped up together as yes and no question, it's going to be a problem. Some people, proponents of multiple questions, think that that would be unfair to give Kenyans a situation where they cannot choose through multiple questions. I don't know how a referendum is supposed to be having multiple questions.
Nick, first of all, I'll tell you that is the biggest lie you can ever meet around.
It's a lie.
It's the biggest lie. And I can also tell you, it's not practical.
How?
You see, Nick, we have a current constitution that we voted for in 2010.
Yeah.
Somebody could also have argued that let's subject that 2010 constitution as at then to multiple questions, so that now you say, I like the executive part, but I don't like the devolution part.
Yeah.
I like the integrity, leadership and integrity part, but I don't like the part that deals with commissions. Yeah. So yes, one, it is not practical, because you look at even the BBI or the constitutional amendment, it is going to amend in excess of 100 articles. To tell Kenyans that, because you look at even the time you take at the booth to vote, and you have more than 100 questions, how long will it take each person to say that yes to this, no to this, yes to this, no to this? So yes, I think one way that has always been practical, and I can also tell you, we've seen even situations, even within parliament, like you'll realize that most parliaments, when they're almost ending their tenures, and they have several amendments to make, they come up with a miscellaneous amendment bill where they put all the amendments. You can get that that miscellaneous amendment bill contains even issues in more than 100 bills, and they lump it together. Either they reject it at once or they pass it at once. So yes, it's not practical that you can have a multiple. And also, let's also be practical. Kenyans are never that keen. Like, for example, and I'm very practical, we've had the BBI bill in debate and all that for more than 3 months now. If you look at now, when was the last one, or when was it last published? Yeah. If up to 3 months right now, there are people who've not even read it, people who don't even know what it contains or contains it. So why would somebody make you voting day now if you give it to them? They will, because, for example, we've even had situations where now the BBA secretariat was saying, we were here for more than a year, asking people to come for views. Some never even came. Some never even told us what we were thinking about some of these issues. Once it's printed, then they begin bringing issues.
They begin coming up with issues. Yes, it's the Cardinal Talk Show as you hear. Today it's more of a... we are taking through this. With me here is lawyer Paul. Ohala is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and right now we've heard exactly what it is, the road that it is for a referendum. So brace yourselves for one in the very near future, because Kenya is right for a referendum. However, we're going for a break. When we come back, we want to again dissect and look at now the political undertones on this, and let's understand what it is that BBI has. Yes, the proponents of BBI celebrated. There's a big section of Kenyans who feel no, this celebration should be too early. So it's over until it's over. That's the warning that is given by people who are critical to the BBI. And when we come back now, it will gonna be the political angle of what it is today and what it will be in the future. This is not any other show. It is the Cardinal Talk Show, #Cardinal Talk. Please, you can join the conversation from there. Let's go on. Welcome back, viewers, wherever you are. Yes, it's the second segment of this show. We've just taken a short break to just understand better and well what happens in matters of BBI. I'm with lawyer Paul Ohala, who is dissecting this bit by bit to let us understand what it is. Now, he says it is not even practical to have a multiple question referendum because it's not practical. Yes, in terms of time taken, in terms of the keenness required, the practicality about all this seems to be a pipe dream as far as is concerned. Now, there are people who've gone to court right now, and they are questioning the process IEBC used about the verification of signatures, and then the courts have decided that there are very many pieces of court injunctions here and there. They amount to about 7 of them, and there's a feeling that the courts want to deal with them like a lump sum. To discuss what is in court, really. I think you lawyers know that's, I don't know what it's called in law, but there's something, they call it something.
Sub judice.
Whatever it is, whatever that is.
No, but things you can give opinion. Actually, if you look at the sub judice rule, it's only about trying to say that this is how the court will decide the matter.
So you are allowed to focus on
you are allowed to discuss what is in general purview. I can say what is before court, or what are those cases about. For example, and there's nothing illegal about it. There are parties who've gone to court about whether IBC, the process through which IBC used to verify the signatures, there's nothing wrong with that. He's suggested that the way that IBCs verified the signature, IBC should actually verify those signatures. Now I cannot discuss what should the court decide, what should not the court decide. That's about them too. There's also the issue where the court is saying that there are several court cases but they relate to the same process. Why don't we hear all the issues? Like maybe but you're questioning signatures. Somebody has gone to court seeking an opinion on whether it should be single question or multiple question. Yes, so there are several issues where the court is saying, fine, given that they relate to the same process, bring everything. Because you see, courts are also trying to say there must be an end to litigation. Because just imagine you determine an issue today, tomorrow somebody files another. Once that is determined, 3 days later, somebody files another.
So it could be a delaying tactic.
Yeah, it could be a delaying tactic. So I think the courts want to say that, okay, fine, everybody who has an issue, bring it. This is the forum. Let's look at it and let's determine them all at once. So yes, there's nothing wrong. First of all, let's also be, in as much as some people might look at it as delaying tactics, it's also good to say that access to courts, everybody is given access to court as a citizen. If you feel that there's an issue that you need the court's opinion on, you are given that timeline. But yes, there must be timelines to ensure that you are not holding people behind. So I think the courts have already told them that yes, we have time to listen to this and this and this and this and this and this, so that now we can move on with the process.
Well, let's wait for the courts to give their verdict on that. Is going on. The courts decided that no, we can't stop the process,
yes,
but we listen to what is entailed in this series of litigations. But the process goes on. So it seems the courts, on the other hand, gave the petitioners what they wanted, but on the other hand, robbed them of the right to stop this whole thing.
No, there are two ways the courts normally deal with issues before it. Normally, the court looks at what nature of damage will be occasioned if you are allowed to proceed or if you are not allowed to proceed. For example, if, for example, I want to stop you building and I'm claiming that you are building on my land, the court will have to decide that in the event that you are allowed to continue and they determine at the end that the land was mine, there are some sort of damage that cannot be compensated by cost. Or let me give another practical example. Like you look at the issue of governorship after Sonko's impeachment, where now if the governor is impeached, then IEBC is supposed to conduct elections. Yeah. But here somebody goes to court and says that, hey, I am Kananu, I was nominated at elections, and somebody is elected. I would have been prejudiced and I cannot be compensated by cost. Listen to my issue first, whether I was nominated through the law. If once you've determined, is when now you can proceed with elections. So yes, courts have determined that they cannot stop the process because the being raised can be compensated.
Okay, well understood.
Yes.
So there is no fear for stopping reggae through the courts.
No. It's also because we cannot say with finality that the courts will not stop what you've called reggae.
Yeah.
What the courts are simply saying that the process that has been allowed to continue is not prejudicial to the petitioners or what they've brought before court. That there will be no harm that will be occasioned to you as a petitioner if the County Assembly of Nandi is allowed to go ahead and debate the bill.
So it's a well thought out kind of provision.
Yes.
The courts accorded
yes.
the petitioners and the entire process.
Yes, but what we're saying is that we cannot say with finality. For example, come and say the process of verifying the signatures did not meet the constitutional threshold, and that would be the end of this process. But yes, for now they are saying, as we are still dealing with this issue before us, let other processes continue.
Wakili, away from that, do you think there's a concern from Kenyans that it's too early that you guys are doing a huge amount of amendments to our constitution, which by virtue of the number of years it's taken, it's still in its infant stages. What's your take about this? Because some guys think we've rushed too far, so fast, and it's not warranted at this particular time to subject our constitution to this huge amount of amendments.
Nick, there are two possible ways of looking at it. One, there are no timelines through which you can amend the constitution. In fact, even this current constitution, we can decide as Kenyans, if we want to go that direction, that we want to replace the whole of it.
It's doable.
It's doable. You know, Nick, circumstances change. People look at things. For example,
but it's too far.
Is what I also want to tell you. For example, you know, you can only get to know whether something is practical when it's in operation, whether it's working or it's not working. For example, when we said that we give devolved unit 15%, we had not tried that before. We didn't know whether it was working or it was not working. We didn't know whether it's enough or it's not enough. So can we actually say that 50 years to decide to add counties money? Is it not something that we had already known? Two, there are certain things that we needed to implement. For example, the 1/3 gender rule. Should we take another 20 years to deal with it on whether we need to address it or not? Three, you realize that in the first election where we even determined, for example, take Embakasi. We agreed and we divided it into 5 constituencies. How many years again do we need to take for us to realize that we need to add the numbers of representation? So I can tell you that this number of whether it should take a year, it should take 10 years, it should take 30 years, to me it's more of a political question than really a legal question. To me, you deal with things as they arise. You deal with situations as they arise. And yes, can you say that now, how much is much and how much is little? When you say that you've taken a lot of amendments. Because, for example, you go and look at even how many pieces of legislation Parliament passes. There are so many. Yes, but yes, there are people who will also still tell you Parliament is not working. But yes, to them, because you see, you look at even Parliament, they're supposed to conduct oversight. They're supposed to look at the bills and amend. They're also supposed to pass new legislation. So they have to look at everything before them. They get to see which one should we deal with, which one should we not deal with. So to me, it's not really about how many articles are being amended. To me, it's about, do they need to be amended? Yes, to me, some really needed to be amended or to be made very clear on how to. Like, for example, we tried within the executive to say that cabinet secretaries should not be members of. Now BBI is suggesting that yes, we've tried that format. Let us see whether if we can have both, where somebody can both be a member of parliament and a cabinet secretary, whether it can work.
But I mean, it's some things like that that Kenyans wonder, why again must we go back to where we were? If we change this constitution and insisted that we wanted technocrats to run ministries, yes, we are having that. Then suddenly, where are we backtracking again and going back to where we came from, and now asking for a hybrid of MPs? Some of the MPs would still be.
Yes, now this is my answer.
And then you see, it doesn't even give the provision for whoever is appointed a minister from the members of parliament to resign and then take up that job. How would you be holding 2 jobs in a country that there are not even jobs?
No. This is the truth, that there was this point of when we passed the 2010 constitution, we thought that we could run certain agencies with executives or people who are more or less from the corporate side. We've realized that some of these policies to implement or to get them working, you need also people with political experience. You see, Nick, you can have a wonderful, wonderful policy or wonderful, wonderful piece of legislation. But if you can't get the people to have a buy-in into it, then it will not go anywhere.
But you need a politician to do that.
Yes. You know, Nick, politicians help people reach consensus. Like, you'll realize that in this country, once politicians say it, then people begin seeing it like this is now non-contentious. Because people take politicians as people who views, who represent and mean well for different people. So yes, and I'll be very honest with you, it is easier sitting down with somebody who has political experience and agree on practicality of things or how certain things need to be addressed than having somebody who tends to think that laws can work like switches, where you can switch on and say it's working from today, you're shutting it tomorrow. You need people who will also understand that, yes, in as much as this is the best way, but we also need to listen, or we need to get wananchi to move with us at this pace.
Well, away from now what is very legal that we've really dwelt on so much, we've actually done so much about the legal process. Are you as Wakili or supportive of the BBI initiative?
Yes, I'm supportive of the BBI because of three things. One, there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, most of it is basically politics. You know, Nick, there's a difference between ideological issues and, to me, ideological issues of what is underrepresentation, what is overrepresentation, should you amend this within this time, should you not? Yes, those ones to me are more of political questions than ideological questions. Two, to me, they are help address. For example, and I'm very honest with you, that counties handle the basic of what you really, really need as a person. You need things like healthcare, you need like those county roads and all that. And there's need for real money for those ones. Like, you'll realize that there are counties that are just keen on agriculture. You go to a place like Kirinyaga, they're just keen on agriculture. Why should the farmers in Kirinyaga not be supported by being given the finances to just do agriculture?
But who said that if they are given that 5%, they are going to do better agriculture? Even the 15% that they were given, but they never showed any good results.
I also don't think so. Nick, you know, you cannot really say that, given that the governor never delivered on the promise, this one who is coming in will also not deliver on the promise. Or that given that this person was unable to steer, then this one will also not be able to steer. And we've seen it. Let's be practical. For example, and I don't want to get into the politics of it. Look at even Kisumu. You can actually say this current governor, there's a track that he has taken. There are things that he's doing where the other former governor did not do. So can you actually say that, given the performance of the first governor, we are supposed to now say that now this whole thing about governorship, or are we supposed to say that given that Sonko performed this way, now we should not trust any other governor in Nairobi because the last governor performed this way?
Well, now there are these people who don't, they're neither supporting or even criticizing BBI. Mostly the Tanga way. At this juncture where we are, and from your political analysis, do you see a situation where we will be having a campaign of the no and the yes?
First of all, it's good to first say that the Constitution of Kenya guarantees any citizen right to have an opinion. In fact, you cannot even be told that you have to tell us why you're supporting or not supporting. You can go and decide that you're voting yes for the BBI without even reading it. Or you can go and decide that you're voting no without even reading it. So one, There is nothing wrong with supporting BBI. Also, there is nothing wrong with not supporting BBI. The only thing is that you need to know that we also have certain pieces of legislation that says that, yes, if you want to disseminate your passions or your objections, there is a process through which you're supposed to go through. Like, for example, you cannot start beating somebody who's come to tell you why you should vote this document now. You're supposed to listen to them. If they come and they want to address you in Bama Market, and it's during the campaign period, listen to them. If the yes team comes and they tell you that this is the main reason why you need to vote to this, listen to them. For example, which is an argument I've seen, there are people saying that it's a good thing for Nairobi to have 12 new constituencies, and that's the main reason why they are going to support BBI. There are also a team saying that will now amount to over-representation. And why should we expand representation? And to me, all views are supposed to be given to Mwananchi. And it's now Mwananchi to now decide whether does he want to vote for this document because he believes that these new constituencies will come with the resources, or is he supposed to shut it down and say this one will ensure that this now will ensure that now I pay more taxes to maintain these structures. And there's totally nothing wrong with it.
Even with that alone, Nairobi will have now 29 constituencies. Say the 12 constituencies are added. Looking at Nairobi, which is supposed to be a location in the rural areas. Even in a rural area where you come from, the locations the size of Nairobi. In terms of geographical distance. But then you look at Nairobi alone, 29 constituencies. It's crazy for a very small place like Nairobi.
No.
But then I know people will argue about the population, but there's a feeling of overrepresentation.
I don't think so. You know, Nick,
like for example, Embakasi North entails Kariobangi North and Dandora.
Yes.
Now, if you look at this intricately, if it's divided into two, then we have the Dandora constituency, which is normally just a one estate.
You know, technically, I can also tell you, there are certain things that are actually within our minds. They are not really that, they cannot really be reviewed. For example, which is something which is historical. How did we decide that Kenya starts from here and ends with here? It's colonialists who met in Berlin and say that the territory that is called Tanganyika will end here. The territory that is called Kenya will end here. It's also even the same thing with counties, where we met and we said, fine, let us use the boundaries as at independence. Yeah, we could even have decided and said, let us use the last districts that were formed. So these are things that can actually be reviewed depending on what you want to achieve. So there is totally nothing wrong with even having a constituency called Dandora. Or even having Dandora 1 constituency, Dandora 2 constituencies. Because even like, let's go, in Kisumu, we have Kisumu Central, we have Kisumu Rural, and there is nothing wrong. Kisumu West and all that, they still all have the Kisumu name. And these are things that can be decided and there's nothing wrong. You know, representation, and I'll also tell you why Kenya we've ended up there. We got to a point where there was that whole issue of, do we represent in terms of the radius, or do we represent in terms of how many people are there?
Population. And
we were able to reach a consensus and say, this is how we will.
The population quota.
The population quota.
Vis-a-vis the geographical.
Vis-a-vis the geographical. Because, for example, let me ask you, if you are in the rural areas, 1,000, and you are able to have a constituency, why should you be denied in Nairobi? And simply because you live in a radius of 2 kilometers. You also need services. You also need things like bursaries and all that. Why should you be denied?
So it's well with you.
To me, it's very well with me. You know, there are certain things that to me will be more acrimonious if we were to deal with. Like, for example, we can even decide that counties are enough and counties are representative. We don't need assemblies or we don't need members of parliament. But yes, that is also another debate altogether.
Well, viewer, wherever you are today, we were doing a more sober approach to what BBI is. Remaining towards actualizing it at the referendum. Now, I was here with Paul Awell. I also want to take this opportunity to just ask you in the next 1 minute, just give us what you actually captured your imagination, captured your thoughts over the week about the political happenings over this week.
What captured my imagination is, to be more honest and fair to you, we have legislative bodies, especially the county assemblies, that don't really look at things from what exactly they are.
What do you mean?
There are county assemblies that rejected because of certain affiliations. There are county assemblies also that accepted because of certain affiliations. You could even see the quality of the debates were not really informed by what was really within the BBI. Yes, the content of the document that is BBI. And to me, I think that is unfortunate, because we have bodies that are really supposed to look at things the way they are and propose or deal with them the way they are. Politics and affiliations and regional politics or party politics still seems to play a lot in decision and in policy.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, that is how politics is fashioned.
Yes.
And we can't run away from it. Maybe it's something that we will have to really correct with time. Yes, viewer, it's been wonderful having you along. Today, as I told you, was a more sober approach to matters here, BBI. As you've heard from lawyer Paul Awell, who is an advocate of the High Court in Kenya, you now know what is ahead of us. You now know what we've left behind, and then the entire process. Yes, a multiple question referendum might not be practical. A yes and no one could suffice. But then, is the document entirely what it's supposed to be? As a Kenyan, you have your inherent responsibility to check, understand, and then do a vote that is informed. Wakili, asante sana. You've made it here. Today you've made it very clear. It didn't have so much politics. It had only material that is supposed to be the path towards referendum and what BBI is all about. Therefore, I want to really thank you for your time, and when you are invited next time, please don't find it hard to come.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Viewers, thank you very much for having us along. It's been nice having you. Until next week on Sunday, same time, we will enjoy the show.
There is never a dull moment at home as you stay safe with StarTimes. Watch The General's Daughter on Novella E+, Nina TV, Timeless Drama, and the new TLN channel. Don't miss Reach for the Stars on Rainbow TV, Best African Movies on AMC, and ST Nollywood. So get your aerial decoder for 1,000